Welcome DIYers, my name is Brittany and recently I've been working in my pantry with MDF Shiplap. Today I want to show you how to install on a vertical and horizontal orientation and just share with you my overall experiences working with Shiplap in my home. If you're looking to take your pantry from this to this or upgrade any area of your home with Shiplap, you're going to want to watch this video in its entirety. I would say this project is relatively easy, but it is a little time consuming. If you find anything in this video helpful at all, make sure you like the video and subscribe to my channel as it helps me out tremendously. Let's get into it. I'm working with 6-inch wide by 8-foot long MDF Shiplap. This Shiplap has the tongue and groove spacers to give a consistent gap between each board. Keep in mind there are many variations in style, widths, and lengths when it comes to Shiplap. MDF is not meant for rooms with high condensation such as bathrooms, but it is perfect for a pantry, hallway, or bedrooms. Let's quickly talk through tools you'll need for this project. I'll also include tools that may be a good idea to keep on hand. A crowbar, hammer, mallet, level, brad nailer, a tape measure, carpenter's square, 1.5 to 2-inch brad nails, a drill, PL Loctite, and a caulk gun, a stud finder. You will need a saw to cut the Shiplap. I used a miter saw and a circular saw for this project. Here is a list of the tools and materials you will need for this project. Take a second to pause the video and look this over. To start this project, you need to clear the area, remove trim, nails, and any other hardware left on the walls. You need to ensure walls are smooth and clear for easy install and proper adhesion of the Shiplap. You can then take measurements, buy your product, and begin cutting pieces to length. This is by far the most time-consuming part of installing Shiplap. I had 35 pieces in total I used for my space, and I spent 3 days cutting and installing. I probably worked for 4 to 5 hours each night on this project. I'm using a miter saw and a circular saw to cut my Shiplap. I recommend using a carpenter's square to ensure a straight cut edge. I cut these pieces inside my house because my garage is a disaster area, and I highly recommend that you do not do the same. I spent about an hour each night cleaning up all of the dust afterwards, and let me tell you, it was not fun. Before you can install the cut Shiplap, you need to find and mark your studs. Most contractors will suggest a stud finder that finds the center of the stud, and this helps to make sure that you aren't nailing through any electrical or plumbing. I'm using a cheap stud finder that finds the studs by magnetizing to the screws used to hold the drywall up. In this space, I'm not worried about electrical or plumbing, but it is good to take precaution in your space. To find the studs, I'm using a right to left or horizontal motion until the stud finder magnetizes to the hardware, then marking all the way up the wall. It would have been much easier to use a chalk line for this task. As you're first getting started, I suggest cutting one piece to ensure that your measurements are correct. Take the cut piece to the place of install and make sure that it is fitting snug and to your liking. You can now begin installation. How exciting! In my pantry, I have 3 walls, 2 of which I plan on doing horizontal orientation and the other in vertical. These 2 orientations have a slightly different install, and I'll go over that with you now. Horizontal installation is fairly straightforward. You cut the pieces to length and install level starting with the floor. Each piece of Shiplap gets 2 nails in each stud. These nails should be brad nails that are 1.5 inches to 2 inches long. The Shiplap I'm using has the tongue and groove spacers, which give an even spacing between the boards. Each board you install, you will need to ensure it is level, and you may need to use a mallet to get the board snug onto the previous one. You will repeat this process over and over and over again until your area is finished. Okay, we finally made it to the top of the first wall. I have one more piece to cut, but I have to cut it a little bit thinner than these ones here. So I haven't taken the measurement yet, but I'm going to do that, and then we'll be finished with this wall. I think in the meantime, I'm going to start down here on this wall. But what I noticed with this wall is this is a pretty short wall, and I have a corner here. This corner has a metal piece that bands the two pieces of drywall together, and then they mud over it. So I can't nail through this. So I technically only have one stud that I can use. I have a stud in the corner, but some of my pieces are gonna be too short, which is kind of planned. I made them about a ½ inch too short to take into consideration the shiplap that's going onto this wall. So I'm actually going to use some construction adhesive too. So I'll be doing one nail in the middle and then construction adhesive across the whole piece. And I will show you that process here in just a second. The adhesive that I'm using is the Loctite PL Premium Max. And when I open it up, we're just gonna take this and we'll just do a thin little line of adhesive. Since we don't need too much, we're also still nailing it to one of the studs. And then the most important thing is I want it to be lined up with this wall. I'm not gonna worry too much about the gap in the back. As I said, I have vertical shiplap that's gonna be going on this wall, and it'll be covering the gap, and then we'll be finishing it off with caulking. I think it's worth mentioning that adhesive is not necessary when installing shiplap, like it was installed on the first wall. There are plenty of studs and nails for proper installation. Here, the adhesive acts as a backup to the lack of studs and nails. This takes us into the installation of vertical orientation. There are two ways to install shiplap vertically. The way I'm showing you in this video is with construction adhesive and brad nails. Construction adhesive is necessary because not all pieces of shiplap will overlap an area of the stud. I also just thought of this as well. There's always framing at the top of every wall. So actually I am going to be nailing in every piece up here and trying to aim the brad nailer so it hits this piece of trim. So that'll give them a little bit more support. Since I'm doing a small wall, installing shelving that will be connected directly to the studs, and installing floor cabinets that will also hold the shiplap in place, I went with this install method. For both orientations, you will have end pieces that you will need to cut to width. I had one at the top of both horizontal walls and one for the vertical wall. Your circular saw will come in handy here. If you've never used a circular saw before, I suggest practicing cutting straight lines on materials you don't care about and don't have a lot of money invested into. This was my first piece, and you can see it's very jagged. My second piece went a lot smoother though. The second way to install vertical orientation is with a wood bracing tied directly to the studs. This is recommended for larger shiplap applications and ceilings. Well, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope it was helpful to you with your next shiplap project. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new today. I really enjoyed taking this project on, and I'm super excited for my pantry completion. Make sure you stay tuned for my next video where I take you on my journey creating and installing custom floor cabinets for this space right here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.